Welcome back to Easy Keys. This is lesson 3 of series 2 of my beginner piano and notation lessons. Please check out series 1 as well as lessons 1 and 2 of series 2 if you missed them. Right, so in this series we've learnt about octaves, scales and keys, the names of the lines and spaces on the stave in notation, quavers or eighth notes, and the C and G major scales. Now in the last lesson we learned the G major scale with the octave fingering in both the left and right hands. The G scale has one sharp, remember? That was F sharp. And that to find out which scale comes next after C major with only one black note, we counted up 5 notes from C. So your original scale with no black notes was C. Counted up 5 notes to get the G scale, and that was our next scale, which had one sharp. So now to get the next scale with 2 sharps, we also count up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So our next scale starts on D, and this has 2 sharps, the F sharp again, and now we have C sharp as well. Show you again. F sharp, C sharp. In the left hand. Again. F sharp, C sharp. And then together. Practice this D scale daily with each hand, playing separately for now, and then once you've mastered the fingering with each hand, try and play both hands again at the same time. If you can't manage them together in the beginning, remember, don't worry, it will come. Continue each hand separately for a few more days and then try them together again as you did with the C and G scales. Every time you practice these scales, you are creating muscle memory and the fingering will become second nature. So now on to notation. Today I want to show you another type of note we can play that is held down for 3 counts. It's called a dotted minim or a dotted half note. So if this is your minim, remember it's open with a stem, you'll see a dotted minim has a little dot to the right of it. So how you count a dotted minim, or even if you're using a dotted crotchet or a dotted semi-breve, the dot counts for half the value of the preceding note. So a minim counts for 2 counts. So the dot will count for half of that, so that's 1 count. So these 2 together equals 3. So there's 2 and 1 for the dot. If we were to add it in here, we've got a semi-breve, which you count as 4 beats. You've got a minim, which you count as 2 beats. So the dotted minim will slot in here for 3 beats, and that is your dotted minim. The next note I want to show you how to write on the treble stave is the C sharp. Remember, there are 2 ways of writing a sharp, either in the key signature or as an accidental. So if you're playing a piece of music and every time you play the C and you want it to be played as a C sharp, you would write this at the beginning of the music between the treble clef sign and the time signature. So remember, your key signature falls here. So that is a C sharp. Remember, with your face, F-A-C-E, that space there is a C. So the center of that little sharp sign will be in the center of that space. So now every C that I play after the C is shown in the key signature will be a C sharp. So even if I put a C there or I put a C here, those are both going to be C sharps. Now if you just want one note to be played as a C sharp in the middle of your piece, then you would just write an accidental in front of it. And then your next C you don't want as a C sharp, then you put your natural sign to cancel it. Lastly, I'd like to show you where the F note is written on the bass stave so that we can add some more exercises at the end of this lesson using that note. So remember your anagram, good boys deserve Fanta always. So your F is actually on the second line of the bass stave. So that's where your F will be. Good, so now we can play music with the notes from F in the bass clef to A in the treble clef. Okay, we're going to play the D major scale. I just want to make a note here that even though in the last lesson we played the G major scale only an octave apart, or if you started here, when it's written, they often write it 2 octaves apart. So you will see that the G is written in the right hand correctly, and then they write the G left hand 2 octaves down, even though we play them only 1 octave apart. So just remember that when you're reading the scale in your exercises. So that was the last lesson, and then the same thing here with the D major scale. So let me play that for you. Okay, what I want to tell you about the notation in Happy Birthday. If you look at the first bar, you'll see there are only 2 quavers, which, as you know, count for half a count each, so that's 1 beat when you add them together. Now, if you look at the last bar, there's only 2 counts there for the minim. So what we do is we add the first bar and the last bar together to get the 3 counts that we need for 3/4 time. Now the reason that it's written like that is because the first bar with the 2 quavers is actually called an upbeat, or the real term for it is anacrusis. But if you just think of it as an upbeat, and the reason for that is that the first note of the second bar is actually the one that needs to be emphasized. So if I were to play it incorrectly and I emphasized the first 2 notes in the first bar, and not the first note of the second bar, it doesn't sound correct. What we need is that the first note of the second bar is the one to emphasize. Can you hear that sounds more correct? So that's why it's written as it is. So in the first bar of the third line, I also want to draw your attention to that little arch with a dot in it that's above the B note. So that is called a fermata, which is its real term, which is another name for pause. So we want to pause on that one note. So when I play that bar, it'll be, then we wait there before we play the G. So this is the first exercise you have with a dotted minim, which is what we've just learnt in this lesson. There's a dotted minim in the last bar of the exercise. In this exercise, Big Ben, we've got quite a few dotted minims, which you hold for 3 counts. this exercise, Canon in D, you will see that key signature at the beginning has two sharps. So that's your F sharp and your C sharp. So that's what the key signature for D major looks like. So that's all for today. See you in the next lesson, and you guessed it, don't forget to practice. Please like and subscribe and leave your comments down below.